Super Mario RPG is getting a remake. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is getting a remake. So what other Mario games could be remade for the Switch? There have been so many amazing games released from Mario and the other spin-off franchises across the years. So let's take a look into its history and see what other games could come to the Switch. Starting off here with a bit of an honorable mention, I've got Super Mario Galaxy 2. Now this game in my opinion was not as good as Galaxy 1, but people have still wanted it on the Switch for a very long time. And especially after 3D All-Stars, people not seeing that game, it was a bit of a surprise. So honestly, at this point, I don't really think we'll be getting Galaxy 2, but it's still too notable of a game to not have on this list. And now kicking off the real list here, I have Super Mario 64 DS. Now a bit of a hot take here, but I actually think this game is better than the original 64. Don't kill me in the comments. But this game was my start into 3D Mario. Being able to play as Yoshi, Mario, Luigi, and Wario, I just remember being so fun. Now this game was very hindered by the controls. As original 64, you were actually able to use a joystick, but on the DS, you're just stuck with a D-pad, so it was a bit awkward, I gotta be honest. But imagine playing this game on a Switch Pro controller. I mean, it would just be amazing. I've wanted this game for so long, whether it be on the Switch or whatever the next console is gonna be. Please, Nintendo, give us 64 DS. Super Mario Sunshine is by far my favorite 3D Mario game of all time, and although it's already on the Switch, I was pretty disappointed with the 3D All-Stars port. Aside from the fact that the games in 3D All-Stars aren't actually ports, but they're emulated, I feel like Sunshine had the most to gain here. However, looking at the game, although the resolution was upped from the GameCube, of course, which was very nice visually, but I feel like they really should have put in a proper blue coin tracker into this game, because it really needs it. When you look at the map in Delfino Plaza, you can see how many blue coins you have in each level. However, you can't see which specific ones you've gotten, and depending on the blue coin, that might be a little annoying. I just felt like there needed to be a bit more time allocated towards Sunshine, but it just wasn't. Now, I doubt we'll ever get a quote-unquote remake of this game from the ground up, but maybe Nintendo will shock me on a future console. Speaking of 3D All-Stars, a game I felt that could have made the argument to be in 3D All-Stars is Super Mario 3D Land. Galaxy 2 and 3D Land, as of recording this video, are the two only 3D Mario games not playable on the Switch. And although we got 3D Land sequel 3D World come to the Switch in 2021, this game was still a load of fun to play and I have great memories from it. And back in 2020, for an April Fool's joke, Thomas created a 3D Land concept trailer showing off one of the levels of what this game could have looked like if it came to the Switch. Super cool stuff. And staying on the DS, I've got new Super Mario Bros. DS now. Even with Wonder being released, I still love this game so much. I mean, it has to be in my top 3 2D Mario games of all time. And a lot of people have been critical of the new Soup formula considering we've had so many of these games. So at the same time, why not bring new Super Mario Bros. Wii over? I mean, it changed the gameplay of 2D Mario forever with the multiplayer. The propeller cap is so fun to use, and whether it's bouncing on other people's heads or just completely throwing them off and killing them, it's just an amazing time. And I have to say, although new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is already on the Switch, I do prefer Wii over it, so why not have all of them playable on the Switch? And speaking of the Wii, we would very much appreciate it if you clicked on that sub button right now.
So cringe.
No, but seriously, we're trying to hit our end of year goal of 200k subscribers, so we would really appreciate if you guys helped us get there. Moving on here, what if Mario Kart Double Dash came to the Switch? Now, we know about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and the behemoth of content that's in that game, with Wave 6 of the Booster Course Pass actually dropping a week from this upload, but something always just brings me back to Double Dash. Aside from the fact that I grew up with this game and it's one of my favorites in the franchise, the new gimmick of the two-person carts, or battle mode in all of the iconic courses, it would just be amazing to re-experience this on a modern console. Now, with the direction the Mario Kart series seems to be going right now, I highly doubt we see this actually remade, but hopefully one day if the Switch gets to a GameCube Online, maybe we'll see Double Dash appear on that, and maybe we could even get some online gameplay with it. Because back in the 2000s, in order to play multiplayer on this game, you needed to use something called the Nintendo GameCube broadband adapter, in which you connected with another physical GameCube console, which was a bit annoying. So if the opportunity presents itself to be able to play Double Dash online someday, I think that would be so much fun. Next up here, we strangely enough have Luigi's Mansion 1. Now, in a recent Nintendo Direct, it was announced that Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon was going to be ported over to the Switch, with a release date pinning it somewhere in 2024. Now, at the beginning here, when I said strange, I really mean it because this game has actually already been ported before, in which it came out on the 3DS in 2018. Now, this series is all over the place in terms of release, because obviously we had the first Luigi's Mansion game come out on the GameCube, and then Then 12 years later, they released Dark Moon for the 3DS. And then 5 years after that, they re-released Luigi's Mansion 1 onto the 3DS. And then a year after that, they released Luigi's Mansion 3 onto the Switch. And now that we're caught up to speed in 2023, we had Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon announced as a port for the Switch, with Luigi's Mansion 1 just nowhere to be found whatsoever on the Switch. It's almost like Nintendo has released these games backwards, which again is very weird. And it would eventually make sense for these games to either be put into a 3-pack or just bundle together Luigi's Mansion 1 and Dark Moon, kind of like they did with Pikmin 1 and 2 when Pikmin 4 was announced and released. Moving on, let's talk about Donkey Kong 64. Released in 1999, to this day, this is still the only 3D Donkey Kong game. And if you love Banjo-Kazooie, you'll love this game because it shares a lot of the gameplay aspects from it, which is due to both of them being developed by Rare, who as we know were bought out by Microsoft and have split off from Nintendo. Now back to the game, Donkey Kong 64 is such a fun experience with a roster of 5 different DK characters to play as, an amazing soundtrack that fits the game perfectly, mini games, and so much more. Now I would love for Donkey Kong 64 to get a full ground up remake to be released on the Switch, but unfortunately I don't think we'll see that happen as Rare is owned by Microsoft now, as I mentioned earlier. So the best we can really hope for is Donkey Kong 64 to come to N64 Online, because we saw Banjo-Kazooie do it, so why can't DK64 do it? Switching gears here, let's talk about the Mario Sports franchise. One game on the Switch that I found really disappointing was Mario Strikers Battle League. The roster on launch was super underwhelming, with the game's content feeling like it was released unfinished, roster staples added in later as quote DLC, no story mode or campaign, and was really lacking in game modes. It was very online focused, which is why I'd love to see Strikers Charge come to the Switch. This game was just incredible for its time. A gritty art style that just fits the tone of the game perfectly, the best music in my opinion out of any Mario Sports game, stadiums with different hazards to adapt to, a challenge mode, and just so much more. This game came out in 2007, and the fact that Mario Strikers Battle League came out in 2022, and in my opinion I feel like it took a step back, is a little disappointing. But regardless, if Nintendo wanted to go the route of remastering or even remaking Strikers Charge sometime in the future, I would be so for it. And to keep on Strikers, if GameCube Online ever comes out for the Switch, I would love to see the first Strikers game on there too. In this era of Mario Sports games, Nintendo just couldn't miss with Mario Super Sluggers up next. Picking up where Mario Superstar Baseball for the GameCube left off, Super Sluggers is just the best that Mario Sports has to offer. With a massive roster containing Mario's main cast, a ton of Donkey Kong characters, K. Rool, critters, and even a ton of Mario enemies you'll recognize from all of the games. A super fun story mode where you're going around and completing challenges to unlock characters, and even just the main game mode, it is so much fun. Some people in the community are scared that Nintendo will screw up a new Mario Baseball game, so this is definitely the safe way to go. And lastly, for the little Mario Sports segment, Mario Hoops 3-on-3 for the DS. Developed by Square Enix, this hands down has to be one of the best games on the DS, putting a super unique twist on basketball, with some of the best designed locations, or in this case courts, in the entire franchise, and slam dunking with your favorite Mario or Final Fantasy character was just so fun. Also, Square Enix's art direction in this game was really cool, like Mario looks so sick here, but I would love if this was remade from the ground up. Being released on the DS, obviously utilizing both screens, as well as being released on the Wii U's Virtual Console, I think in full HD on a full screen on something like the Switch, it would make this game even better than it already is. From 3-on-3 to 5-on-5. Add online functionality, maybe expand the roster, and suddenly you're contending for the best Mario Sports game of all time in my opinion. And lastly, the Wario Land series. And I'm not talking about the one from the Wii, I'm talking about the 4 games released across the Game Boy consoles. These games are super goofy and fun, as we adventure with Wario through the weirdest locations as he chases the bag, yet so entertaining at the same time. Having these games come back would be super cool for Wario's character, considering we've only had WarioWare games in the past couple years. So what if Nintendo took these Wario Land games and gave them the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy treatment? Building these games from the ground up and putting them into a pack and releasing them, I think would be the perfect way to bring these games back, because obviously they are very dated back from the Game Boy era, being the Game Boy Color, and even the Game Boy Advance. So I really hope someday that happens, because I think it's a great idea. And with that out of the way, that's going to be the end of the list. Be sure to leave a comment below letting me know, did I miss any games, or what did you think of the list? Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like the video and hit that sub button and turn on that notification bell if you're new. And this is PJ from the Switch Stop signing off. Peace.